222019. Right now, you're probably wondering, what do these numbers mean? Am I giving out an encrypted ciphertext? Am I giving out this year's winning lottery numbers? Have I lost my mind like Jim Carrey in the movie The Number 23? No, this is Colby Covington's UFC record since December 2019. In around 1,400 plus days, Colby Covington, a top 3 ranked fighter in his prime and at the top of his game star power wise, has managed to have 4 fights with a .50 record. It's been about 1 year and 9 months since Colby has stepped inside the octagon, and after fighting number 6 ranked at the time Jorge Masvidal and getting jumped outside of a steakhouse in Miami by Jorge, Colby has been able to secure a title shot. This weekend, Colby fights current welterweight champion Leon Edwards. This matchup could be a tough matchup for Colby in some ways, but there are some paths to victory. And a strange thought I had was that Colby could actually be a bit fresher than Kamaru Usman coming into this fight. But you know what's wild? And another thing that's tough to realize at least, Colby Covington's UFC record when it comes to people he's fought and how average it looks. But let's not jump to conclusions just yet, as looking at records with no context doesn't tell you everything. Does Colby Covington have a mediocre UFC record, and does he beat Leon Edwards? Let's do some digging. Before we get started, hit the like button if you end up enjoying the video, subscribe for more content similar to this, check out my channel for other videos I have that you might end up enjoying, and let me know in the comment section down below. Does Colby Covington have a mediocre UFC record, and does he beat Leon Edwards this weekend? I was excited and getting ready for this fight and preparing some video ideas. I was going through Colby's record again, and I just came to this realization that I just forgot how mediocre it looks. Look, I actually like Colby Covington. I like watching him fight, and while I know some people might find his persona silly or cringe, I personally think it adds a fun layer to the welterweight division. Him winning this weekend would create some really interesting and some really fun title fights for us in the future. I like Leon, I do. I don't dislike him, but let's be honest, he just does not have the ability to build up fights in general, and definitely not to the same level that Colby does. Again, Colby's record is one thing, but let's actually look at some of the context and the fights themselves. Let's look at this list, excluding Kamaru Usman. Jorge Masvidal, 37 years old at the time, ranked number 6 at the time, on a 2-fight losing streak. Tyron Woodley, 39 years old at the time, ranked number 5 at the time, 2-fight losing streak. Robbie Lawler, 38 years old, ranked 11 at the time and on a 2-fight losing streak. RDA, 33 years old, ranked number 1 at the time. Maia, 39 years old, ranked number 3 at the time. Dong-Hyun Kim, 35 years old, ranked number 7 at the time. Max Griffin and Jonathan Minure, short notice appointed. Now there's some other ones, but I'm trying not to go too far back. Since 2019, Colby has only fought one person who was in the top 5 at that time. And I'd say, let's be honest, Tyron Woodley was barely hanging on to number 5 back then. He was a shell of himself. The last fighter who was still relatively in their fighting prime, you can argue Colby fought, was RDA, which was back in 2018. We're not stopping here though, let's analyze some of these fights a little bit further. Maia, who was ranked number 3 at the time and 39 years old. This was back in 2017. This was not that eventful of a fight, and even though a person who's not known for their striking in Maia had Colby's face bleeding, I will still say we can't complain too much about this win or criticize it too much, because while yes, Damian was old, he was ranked number 3 at the time to be fair, and just came off facing Tyron Woodley for the title. RDA, so back in 2018, this was a great classic Colby fight where his pressure was tremendous and his ability to move forward through whatever's being thrown at him was in full display. That being said, I don't want to sound like a hater, but a couple things I do want to note. RDA is a fighter that should be respected by everyone. Absolutely true. However, while RDA is not a small lightweight, he did fight a lightweight for most of his career and also managed to take Colby down multiple times in this fight. Ultimately, I thought Colby won 3-2, but this was not a complete shutout performance by Colby. Good old Robbie Lawler. So this was an impressive victory when you look at how much activity Colby had in the fight, but that's about it. This was against a well past his prime, number 11 ranked at the time, Robbie Lawler. So honestly, any top ranked welterweight should have been able to thoroughly beat Robbie at that stage of his career. In terms of volume thrown by Colby, yeah, it was good to see. The level of opponent, not impressive. Tyron Woodley, the first 3 rounds, very uneventful. Not much to say here. First 3 rounds, boring. Last 2 rounds, they were good. But again, this was Tyron, who was not at his best, clearly. Jorge Masvidal, ranked number 6 at the time. Look, I don't think Jorge is a bad fighter. I actually do think he's quite skilled, but I was never someone who really believed that Jorge had some sort of career resurgence in 2019. By the way, Colby was looking extra mad in this fight. This dude was looking like he was like the final boss or something. Sheesh. Now, when it comes to the fight itself, was it an impressive performance? Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, he did beat Masvidal quite easily, and there was things in this fight that I saw that could be used to beat Leon as well. So, what do I think after looking at this again? Upon looking at it again, with some more context, like where some of his opponents were at that time of their career and things like that, I would say it was just a little bit above mediocre. However, even though I'm saying a bit above mediocre, I am completely okay and comfortable accepting other people's arguments if they say he has a mediocre UFC record, especially when it comes to the people he's fought. Now, when it comes to the Leon Edwards fight, one might look at Kamaru versus Leon 3 and think Colby's chances wouldn't be much higher. I do want to point this out though, Kamaru versus Leon 3 was a very close fight, and I would not say that Leon dominated the fight in any way. I honestly think you can argue that the fight was a draw, especially considering the point deduction, but I'm not going to argue it too much. Leon did a great job at defending takedowns, getting back to his feet, and circling to avoid the cage and Usman's strikes. I do want to say this though, Leon was fouling quite a bit in this fight, and I've seen this before as well, like in the Bilal Muhammad fight. Dude, Leon was fouling a lot, and I don't know if this is a hot take. I actually think Leon should have been DQ'd in that fight, but I did notice a lot of fouling in this one as well. Like I mentioned before, in a strange turn of events, Colby might actually be a bit fresher than Kamaru at this point in their careers. At their best, Colby was unable to beat or surpass Kamaru, but I do think that age and activity has started to catch up with Kamaru. Not completely, Kamaru still looks fantastic in my opinion. Colby could surprisingly, we don't know 100%, be fresher with all this time off he's been taking. Another thing to consider are some of the rumors and stuff people say regarding Kamaru's knees and how shot they are. If we consider that as a fact, Kamaru's ability to wrestle is probably pretty damn compromised, whereas Colby showed in the Jorge fight no slowdown in his ability to grapple for long periods of time on the cage or wherever. The path to victory that I see is that Colby needs to keep this fight on the cage and make it a boring, grueling fight if necessary. I'm talking holding Leon on the cage for minutes at a time if possible while trying to take him down. Leon's takedown defense and scrambling has improved rapidly, which is why I think the grueling battle of attrition on the cage is where Colby can win this fight. The tricky part is actually getting Leon to the cage. As I mentioned before, Leon was doing a wonderful job circling and avoiding Usman in their fight. Now, the one way and one area that Colby does have a slight advantage, and maybe he can utilize this effectively, is that he's willing to take some shots, duck his head, and push forward in order to grab his opponents if he needs to. Standing in the center, waiting for opportunities to, take Leon down or clinch him, to me, that's a losing strategy. Even though I've been offering some critique of Colby and his record in this video, I think I'm going to go with Colby to win this. I'll be honest, it's not a very confident pick, but I do think if Colby goes in with the right game plan, he does have the tools to beat Leon in a grueling grappling match. One thing about him not fighting as much recently and not really fighting as much high-ranked competition is that the entire division is open for Colby to fight. There's no shortage of matchups for him if he ends up winning the title.